Hello, neighbor. I'm Robert Burns, and welcome once again to another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. Today is installment 3 of our interview with Mr. C.J. Matthews. He is a candidate for Ascension Parish Sheriff. And very briefly, from our first 2 episodes, Mr. Matthews had relayed some serious concerns he had about a former sheriff's deputy who was engaging in, or allegedly engaging, although the evidence is pretty strong, texting with a 16-year-old female student, and Mr. Matthews' contention that he was basically given favorable treatment in that he was permitted to resign and not face prosecution. And when we left it off, Mr. Matthews, after the sheriff's office, we presented their, quote, investigation, unquote, and Mr. Matthews had gone to the Attorney General's office and filed a complaint because he was not content with the level of this investigation, and the Attorney General's office basically said there's no merit here, we're going to dismiss it as unfounded, and we told you just hang tight. That was far from the end of the story. And so, as one might imagine, and as happens so frequently in these type cases, because I've seen it over and over and over again, lo and behold, Mr. Matthews' performance evaluation toward the end of 2018 basically plummeted. And I'm going to let Mr. Matthews take it over. We will be supplying only one set of documents, and this feature is going to focus on solely on that set of documents. It will be document 7, and it will be Mr. Matthews' response to his performance appraisal and the further things that took place thereafter. So with that, Mr. Matthews, why don't you go ahead and take over?
Thank you, Robert. As Robert stated earlier, on or about October 19th, 2018, I received a less than stellar evaluation. And basically what it said is that I'm extremely knowledgeable in my job and law enforcement as a whole, but they claimed that my professional conduct had seemed to decline, and it was apparent in my interactions with my fellow employees. Well, absolutely. Knowing what I knew and the things that were going on absolutely affected me that way. So when I got my evaluation, I said, hey, can I have a day to compose my thoughts? Because they allow us to rebut it.
Sure.
And they said, absolutely, sure. So the next day, I went home and I composed a letter, and it's contained in your
Right, we're providing a link for all of this documentation.
And basically I tell them, hey, look, I'm the guy that called the AG's office. If you don't believe me, I'll give you their case number, which was 37-201-88, if you want to fact check it. So I wasn't hiding anything anymore.
Sure.
It was all out in the open. So my boss at that time, his eyes got pretty big, and when he read it, my response was like, oh man, you sure you want to do this? I said, I wrote it. Absolutely. I'm planting my flag right here.
All right.
Now, after that, there was some time of kind of in limbo for a little while.
Okay.
Where I'm not sure if the administration didn't know how to take it, or they were getting some advice on which way to go, or if they were strategizing or whatever. So, my attorney knew everything.
All right.
And then on November 14th,
okay,
I get a call from one of the civil deputies. Hey, CJ, I need to serve you something. I said, okay, man, just come on by the house. I'm here. He says, I can't. I need a copy machine. A copy machine? I said, okay. He says, well, what is it? Because I'm thinking it's a subpoena from an old case.
Sure.
It's a letter. Okay. What's it a letter about? Who's it from? Oh, it's from the sheriff.
Oh.
I said, well, what's it say? I don't have my glasses. Said, I got it, bro. I'll meet you in the parking lot.
I may have been born at night, but not last night.
Right. So I meet him in the parking lot, and I get handed a clipboard with the letter on it, and it's on a plain piece of paper. It's not on office letterhead or anything like that, which is strange to me.
All right.
And basically, the sheriff, Jeff Wiley, he makes me two appointments. He says I can meet with the DA. Now he's forcing me into a meeting with the DA based on my letter.
Sure.
You can have a meeting with him on Thursday, November 15th at 10 a.m., or you can meet with him on the 16th, which was a Friday at 10 a.m.
All right.
Okay, well, obviously you see that, you'll see it on the letter, refused. I said, man, I ain't signing it.
Correct.
But I took some pictures of it.
Uh-huh.
Just so happens that morning, I'm meeting with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Okay.
So when I leave this, I go to the FBI meeting. I met with, his name's Jeff Methvin. I'm not sure if he still works in the Baton Rouge office.
Yeah.
So I met with him, and there was another gentleman from the IG's office. I can't remember his name. My attorney was actually in court. She would have been there, and I lay out to him what I knew at that time.
All right.
And Mr. Methvin says, hey man, I'll give you one piece of advice. He says, that letter that you got where the sheriff's telling you to make one of those meetings, he said, I would make one of them, because if you don't, that could actually give him cause to fire you.
Okay, all right.
So I said, good idea, Jeff. So as soon as I get out of this meeting, I get on the phone with my attorney. I send her a copy of the a photograph that I had taken of the letter, and she says, hold on, man, wait a minute. Let me make some phone calls. So she calls the DA's office.
All right.
Her connection over there with the DA's office.
All right.
Who was at that time was number 2 in charge.
Okay.
And he responds to her, he's like, no, we don't do business that way, but let me get in touch with Ricky and see what this is all about.
All right.
So a little while,
Ricky being the district attorney for those
Ricky Babb.
for those who may not know that. Go ahead.
So a little while later, he calls my attorney back and he says, oh yeah, he better be with one of those meetings. She said, okay, well, we'll be at the...
We'll be there. We will be there.
We'll be at the Friday meeting at 10 o'clock.
All right.
I did not hear the phone call, but the way my attorney related to me was that at that point he says, oh no, you don't understand, you can't come with him.
When he's saying you can't come with him, he's referencing that the DA is saying your attorney cannot come with you. Let's make sure everybody understands what's going on here.
So if you don't believe there's some shady stuff going on, okay, the plot thickens. So at that point, she says, wait a minute. She says, I'll tell you what, we're not coming to the meeting. We're going to respond in letter. Unless I hear something different from you where I can go, we're going to respond in letter.
Exactly, all right.
And here we go.
Here we go.
So we compose a letter and send it to Mr. Babin, detailing some issues of malfeasance, which was another case,
Right.
not the Corder case, in which in which a perpetrator who was involved had some connections with another sheriff's office in another parish, and also with the 23rd Judicial District Attorney's Office, and he was not, I'm not sure if he wasn't prosecuted, but there was some shady business that went on in that case too.
All right.
It also involved a juvenile at that time.
Correct.
So we write that and we send that to the attorney.
All right.
And that was on, I delivered it on the 15th.
All right, 15th of November, correct?
To the DA's office, yes.
Now folks, you're gonna notice an awful lot of paperwork starting to fly back and forth all within a couple of days. Go ahead.
My attorney gets a letter dated November 15th from the district attorney detailing this, and you advised that you would not meet with us, but would disclose the complaint in writing. And his letter states, due to ethical concerns, I have no choice but to respond through you accordingly, and I enclose my response.
Do with it what you may, I believe was the last sentence in that, was it? Or either the next one.
So then his response is a letter that he sends to me.
Okay.
I'm in receipt of your letter. The burglary case that you speak of is not now, nor will it ever be handled by this office. The matter will be prosecuted by the AG's office. I regret you refused to meet with us today. Well, if you would have let me and my attorney come, that was not in question.
All right.
Or tomorrow to examine other acts you described as being unlawful. But as you suggested, I forward the information to the Louisiana Attorney General's office, and perhaps we will be at a point that we will be able to disclose what acts and perpetrators you feel need investigating. I wish you the best, Ricky Babb.
All right.
Now, that was November, that letter was dated November 15th.
All right.
I'm not sure when she gets the letter, but my attorney gets a letter that's dated from Miss Jill Kraft.
All right. I want to interrupt right there. I won't take but a second.
Yes, sir.
Whenever it seems that there's a controversy brewing, somehow, some way, Jill Kraft's name always managed to bubble to the surface. And so I can only reckon back to those words of that song, and I'm sure everybody will remember it, except I'm going to change the name. Jill Craft to the rescue. Jill Craft to the rescue. All right, you go ahead.
All right. My attorney gets the letter. Now, it apparently, in reference to the letter, Jeff Wiley has gone out and retained Ms. Craft.
Correct. Now, that's my point. Jill Craft to the rescue.
Here's what the people of Ascension Parish need to know. The Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office has attorneys on retainer all ready to protect them and litigate situations, but apparently Mr. Wiley felt that he needed an extra layer of protection. My attorney says that it was a purely strategic move on Wiley's part to hire Jill Craft or retain Jill Craft, so therefore C.J. Matthews couldn't retain Jill Craft. But unbeknownst to him, C.J. Matthews had already retained another attorney whose bread and butter is
this type matter.
Whistleblower laws. So it goes on and it states that, without reading all of it to you, that, you know, she's being retained by Jeff Wiley. She understands that the district attorney's office is referring it to the Louisiana Attorney General's office. Now she states this: regardless of any status of inquiry initiated or instigated by your client, my client is required to investigate claims of criminal conduct, even if, as alleged, they are involving the sheriff's office. I understand that, ladies and gentlemen, but when they are involving the sheriff,
right,
you got to go a different route.
Yes.
Now, to stop for just 1 second, and preface it with this. I know this for a fact that at one point during Edwards' investigation, there was I want to say it was a Baton Rouge police officer, I'm not going to name his name, but I know who it was, said something, who was aware of the investigation.
All right.
Said something in passing to someone in a restaurant in Baton Rouge, and someone heard it, and it caused some problems in the investigation.
All right.
And that subject was subsequently arrested and went to jail.
Okay.
So how asinine is that for a sheriff to believe that, you know, if I'm the bad guy, and we're going to, if you'll indulge me here at the end, we'll go back in time and I'll discuss another case involving Mr. Jeff Wiley and 3 narcotics detectives that did the same thing. They did what they thought they should do and involved another agency, and he lowered the boom on them, but we'll get to that.
All right.
So anyway, yet at no time your client advised the sheriff of the alleged violations. Well, am I gonna, you know, if he's the man paying my salary and I go to him, Sheriff, you're breaking the law, and I'm going to turn you in, do you think he's going to take that very well?
Well, and let me just say one thing very briefly. All of our viewers have seen us covering Louisiana State Police. And I want to make sure everybody understands one thing. In sharp contrast to being a trooper, where you have the civil service protection, and so if disciplinary action is taken against you, you have the right to appeal. You'll appeal before the Louisiana State Police Commission. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I am told that for sheriff's offices across the state, that is not the case.
Absolutely not.
Correct. You are an at-will employee, and if the sheriff wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and terminates you in the ball game, I mean, obviously, if you can include race discrimination, sex discrimination, that's a whole different matter. But other than that, you pretty much serve at the will of the sheriff. And so I only say that because we have presented so many appeals that I'm figuring that everybody would say, oh, well, no problem. Yeah, it's a problem, but you appeal it. You don't have that avenue with the sheriff's offices. Indulge me a moment. That is exactly why there is no prohibition against folks who work for the sheriff's offices contributing to political campaigns or being actively involved in campaigns, because there is no civil service protection. Everyone who's watching this should be aware that the Louisiana State Troopers Association is suing the Louisiana State Police Commission because they want the same latitudes that sheriffs have. They say, we need this in order to be competitive with the sheriffs. I say competitive. Apparently, you really got to do some helping out some politicians to to get what you want is the only message that can be sent there. That litigation is ongoing. It's on appeal right now. The 19th JDC Judge, Don Johnson, sided with the Louisiana State Police Commission and said, no, it is against the Constitution. You cannot do this. You cannot engage in political activities. I said all of that to say this man is in a different boat, okay? While he can engage in political activities if he was so inclined, he also has zero in the way of protection. The state police, they want to have it both ways. They want to have the cake and eat it too. They want to be able to engage in political activities and still have the civil service protection. I apologize for taking up about a minute of your time, but I wanted to make sure everybody understands that you are in a totally different boat.
That's quite all right, and Robert is right. Unfortunately, deputy sheriffs serve at the pleasure of the sheriff.
Right.
He can fire you for no reason, but he can't fire you for the wrong reason. But if he fires you for the wrong reason, you've got a long road to hoe to prove that, and it can always be, oh no, that's not why I fired him for
right.
reduction of force or whatever. So back to Ms. Kraft's letter, and she ends it with, as a law enforcement officer, your client is obligated to report alleged crimes and assuredly as a deputy sheriff of the sheriff's office to fulfill his oath and obligation to the public and his office. I did that. I went to the AG's office. I also went to the state police. Okay, now that you're on that. Okay, so she can't say that I didn't fulfill my obligation. Hence, the purpose of this letter is to request details regarding your client's allegation. It's a fact-finding mission she's trying to dig.
Sure.
They want to know just how much I know.
Right.
They didn't know. So, after that's done, my attorney sets up a meeting for me to have a interview with Mr. David Mitchell, with the advocate.
Okay.
So now, let's go back in time a little bit. When I first reported this to the Attorney General's office, and a little bit further, I made contact with a media figure in such a Paris. His name's Wade P.T. He has the Pelican Post. Okay. All right. Wade P.T. comes to my house. We sit down. We have a conversation. I extrapolate all the information that I knew at that time to him.
All right.
Okay. Hoping to spurn some media coverage.
Sure.
Which didn't happen.
Okay.
So then, as the course of events unfolded, we were in loose contact. Hey, this, that, the other. So on November 19th, the day that I'm going to meet with Mr. Mitchell, at 11:10 in the morning, you got my phone records. I get a phone call from Wade P.T.
Okay.
Hey man, Wiley's adamant about me having a meeting with him. He says he's going to give me unfettered access, P.T.'s words, to the quarter file. How you want me to play this? I said, I don't know, man. Do what you got to do. Protect your source. He said, all right. So I go to the meeting with Mr. Mitchell, and I'm laying out everything, and I'm giving him everything. And
just to let our viewers know, we provided the link for that Ultimate Advocate article in episode 1. We will repeat it again in the body of this feature. Anybody who wants to go and look at the article that Mr. Mitchell ultimately wrote will be welcome to do so. You pick it back up. While I'm meeting with Mr. Mitchell at 6:51 p.m., I get a phone call from Wade P.T. All right. Apparently he's had his meeting. He says, hey, he said, yep, you guessed it. They fixing to fire your ass in short order. Wow. If you don't shut up about Fred Corder, Wiley says he'll guarantee you your 30 years with some assurances that you don't run for sheriff. Ladies and gentlemen, that phone call may have been recorded. Oh. So before anybody decides that they're gonna, oh no, that's not what you said, when you make a living supposedly being truthful, you better think about it. Okay? I'm just throwing that out there. You do what you want to do. All right. Okay, so I get this phone call. Immediately, I call my attorney. While I'm on the phone with my attorney, I get a text message from Jeff Wiley. You've got a copy. Oh, yeah, it should be. That's the last page? No, it's not that. It's not that message. It's another message. He goes on a little rambling thing. Hey, CJ, we never did get to talk about it. I really wish you would. At your convenience, why don't we have a meeting? And you can have a third party there to mediate. No attorney, of course. It's written in the text. Okay. And by the way, you never got my side of the story, so what could it hurt? All right. Okay. So I'm on the phone with my attorney, relaying the message that I just got from PT about, basically extortion. Mm-hmm. If you don't shut up, we're gonna fire you, but I'll make sure you get your 30 years so you can walk out the door and start getting your pension the next day.
and but you got to give me some assurances that you don't run for sheriff.
All right.
So she says, don't respond to the text. She says, go inside, you tell Mr. Mitchell what happened, and I'll call you in the morning. So I go in there and I give all this information to Mr. Mitchell, who actually eventually, whenever he writes an article, it's put in his article. Next morning, my attorney calls me about 6:30 in the morning. She says, you send this to Jeff Wiley verbatim.
All right.
And I'll read you the text.
All right, let's hear the text.
From the
attorney
text,
said to send.
November 20th at 7:23 a.m. I sent it to Jeff Wiley. I got your message from Wade PT, period. I'll be in touch after the holidays. Till then, have a happy Thanksgiving. He comes back at 7:24. Nice to hear. Looking forward to doing that.
Right, and that's the last page of the document 7 that we're supplying here.
Now, there was no, I don't know what message you talked about from Wade PT, CJ, but I'll have a meeting with you. Or I'm not tracking you, CJ. I'll meet with you, but I'm not clear on this message. He knew exactly what happened. He knew exactly what he told PT, and he knew what was going on.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the big kicker of all this, ladies and gentlemen. When this happened, I think they had an aha moment.
There you go.
Or they had an oh no moment. Or what did I just do moment? Because after this, everything gets quiet, and I mean real quiet.
You can hear crickets now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Until about the end of December, I get a text message from Wiley. If you want, no, let me rephrase this. This is my last, and this is verbatim, not
close to verbatim.
Right. This is my last staff meeting. I really wish you would attend. Yes, sir, I'll be there.
All right.
So, as I figured, I show up. Now, you got to understand, since I was staff, I went to staff meetings.
Sure.
But since all this happened, I was every time we had a staff meeting, I'm burning a day of annual leave. I didn't want to risk a confrontation. Because not only do I know them, but I know me more. So, anyway, I show up, he's there, and oh, hey, CJ, how you doing? Yes, sir, how you doing? So, can I talk to you for a second in private? I'm like, yeah. So he brings me in another office, and believe it or not, in a roundabout way, in a Jeff Wiley-ian way, he semi-apologizes. And basically ends it with, hey, CJ, why don't you just let it go because I'm retiring.
Okay.
Have a nice retirement, Sheriff. So go to the staff meeting, and then, it's a, normal staff meeting. And this was probably sometime, maybe a week or so before Christmas.
All right.
And then I guess you'll have to tune in for the next episode.
Yes.
To find out what happens after that.
And I can assure you that episode 4, we're starting to transition. Wiley out, Weber in.
Absolutely.
And that little transition and the immediate aftermath thereof is something you will not want to miss, as I don't think you would want to miss any segment of this. So, Mr. Matthews, thank you once again for taking your time to provide us with episode 3, and I'll be seeing you again soon, as will all of our viewers by way of watching, for episode 4. We'll transition from the Jeff Wiley regime to the Bobby Weber regime. Look forward to seeing everyone for our next feature. I hope everyone has a very, whatever it is for you, the rest of the week, depending on when you watch this, and try to find a way to beat the heat. And hopefully your air conditioning doesn't go out, because I know I wouldn't be able to stand it long if mine did. So with that, we will see you again soon for episode 4. Thank you again.